following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, good afternoon, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Man. It's a pleasure to welcome you back here at the channel for our wee video as we take a look towards tomorrow's semi-final at Hampden against St.Johnstone. Happy to be joined by Joe Donnelly to talk about that. Obviously now, Joe, we know that other semi-final this Easter weekend is over. It will be Aberdeen that we play in the final.
Yes.
I watched it myself. It was absolutely chronic. It was like two bald men fighting over a comb. Hearts went down to 9 men. Like, no offence, mate, I know, but eventually Aberdeen got themselves over the line, and it's going to be a familiar foe that we play in the final. Initial first thoughts on that, Aberdeen or Hearts? Did you have any preference?
I didn't have a massive preference, but what I do prefer is going to watch an actual match. You like to see a good match-up, you know, a bit of grit in the teeth and everything like that. I think with Hearts, they've just not been there this season, and, you know, we've all been there. It happens. So, no, fair play. Aberdeen have well deserved it as well. They managed to, they'd fell down quite badly, but they've managed to pull themselves back a little bit. So, good on them. Looking forward to it.
A late shown, as I said, it was quite a frustrating game to actually watch here. I wanted to see get eye up the opposition because, listen, without being overconfident here, we're playing against St. Johnstone right now. I know they beat us in the league. I know that. Was a team that was scrapping. You could argue this is an all or nothing for them where, you know, it's either win or bust for them. It is their entire season. But with Celtic, you know, within that touching, grasping distance of a treble, I expect us to sweep them aside. So I'm not being flippant when I say that it wouldn't bother me who we played in the final because I think we'll take it on. But yeah, watching that game, eyeing up the would-be opponents, I thought it was extremely poor. As I say, it's got two bald men fighting over a comb. Actually, there was up to 105 minutes of the game. There was actually only 3 shots on target. That tells you everything you needed to know about that game. It was an absolute bore fest. But it will be Aberdeen that will be getting put to the sword in the final because I fully expect that to happen. We'll talk about the game tomorrow. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but before we do that, as we said, a wee bit of housekeeping to start. Just get that out of the way. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. Welcome to Big Rab there, one of our members. If you want to help out the channel, you can do that. Member section there. $1.99 donation just helps put all this together, and we greatly appreciate that. Most important thing that you can do is hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to get notified. That costs you absolutely nothing, and it just helps grow the channel, get more like-minded fans into the chat here, and expand the community that we've got here. You can get us on X, you can get us on TikTok, you can get us on Blue Sky, you can get us on Spotify, plenty of ways to catch up with Celtic World Order, and hopefully you do that. So anyway, there's a game to look forward to, as we say, Joe. We know the opposition that are coming up there. A few things to talk about. We press conference and the likes. We'll get around to that. We'll get around to the game. We'll talk about what we think the lineup's going to be. If you have any thoughts and you're watching here, fire them in. Let us know what you're thinking ahead of this game. But yeah, as it says there, there's no room for sinners against Saints. And that's basically off the back, as we say. We played against Kilmarnock the other week there. We absolutely destroyed them that first half. It tapered away a wee bit, but it was definitely a reaction, a bounce back that we were expecting after the manager came out and scolded many of the squad. They maybe felt we're treading water, maybe felt they're a wee bit arrogant, and it's the same opposition. Does lightning strike twice in a game like this, or is it just too big an ask for St. Johnstone, mate?
I think it would be too big of an ask. I think, you know, we took our foot off the gas. We played certain players who we've spoke about and everyone spoke about that just weren't up to scratch or haven't been up to scratch. And it became just very mundane and very, we're going to walk away with it anyway, and flippant, if you will. So, you know, there's no room for that. No matter what stage of the league you're in, no matter what stage of the cup you're in, doesn't matter. There's no excuse for complacency, sorry. So, yeah, I just thought, for me, we need to come out, show them how we actually do it, and just crack on, get the job done, get it over the line.
Well, I think we looked at they're playing up there when we had them away in the league. They're scrapping for their lives. It all went for nothing because, as they say, they got the victory against us. They needed to get something out of their next game, and they fell away. So they've got a very short timeline to actually try and survive this here. This is their all or nothing here. It's actually kind of funny because we've got a team who are aside from Celtic, one of the most successful teams in Scotland in terms of trophy count in recent years, such as maybe the actual standard of the league and those around us. And again, today's game, Hearts and Aberdeen, was testament to just how average the opposition is. But no, I don't think, for me, lightning doesn't seem to be striking twice here. A team, small pitch, fighting for their lives. I can understand it. We had a couple of guys that were maybe on the wind down. The league situation, I don't agree. I don't prescribe to what the manager says, that maybe that's creeped into the mindset where it's all but done. It's a formality, and maybe don't get yourself up for it. And a cup semi-final, it's a win or nothing. It's as well as being a cup final. So if you can't,
and at Hampden as well, you've got to.
And if you can't get yourself up for that, and you can't do your game, big expansive park, it's going to be pretty much a sellout. It's going to be a majority again. Let's be honest, the Celtic, the noise, and as it says, touching, grasping distance, a cup final where you can get yourself another historic treble. It would be a hard push for the guys not to get themselves up for that, and hopefully we will do. We'll get into that and we'll talk about it, but let's have a wee look back at some of the stuff that sort of came out through the week before we do that. We've obviously got the Team of the Years come out, the PFA Team of the Year. We'll have to do our Player of the Year nominations, with some other talk around about contracts and that certain defender that people love to hate. The manager's had his word on us. We'll cover all these things. Let's start with the PFA Player of the Year. Sorry, the Team of the Year that's just came out there. No surprises, Joe. It's as much as a clean sweep for Celtic as you can possibly get. There's only 4 players from other sides that have managed to get in. In terms of ourselves, it's Casper Schmeichel, Alistair Johnson, CCV, Kalmak, Rio, Kuhn, Dyson Maeda, and the 4 outliers are 2 from Rangers. Let's be honest, they always have to get somebody in there. That was Suter. That was Raskin. Again, I'm quite surprised at that for a guy who's had maybe a 3-month season. James Prentice, again, we'll talk about him when we get on to the Greg Taylor situation. And of course, Dalby at Dundee United. It just pretty much sums up Celtic's dominance, does it not, mate?
Yeah, no, 100%. The only one that I would possibly disagree with in there would be Kuhn, but we've spoken about him, but I understand why he is in there as well anyway. He did play great at the start of the season, tailed off a little bit, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, a sheer bit of dominance there, and shows how highly regarded most of our, if not all of our players are as well. I think they just literally couldn't put our entire squad in there, really. That's all it comes down to, isn't it? I think as well, doesn't it?
No, it'll be good. It's the Kuhn situation. I don't think looking at it, I don't think in terms of looking at the sort of centre half. Suter, I think, has had a decent season for Rangers, albeit they came away with absolutely nothing again. Lol. And James Prentice, I think, is a fantastic player. I think when we're talking about, and it's a good wee segue into it, because the manager is looking at left backs. He's looking at the situation with Taylor. We obviously know that we have Kieran Tierney, who is, mate, he's on the cusp of getting a Champions League final. It's incredible stuff.
Arsenal, mad, something to bring back.
Great value for money. He's kind of converted into a wee bit of a winger. The manager was talking about that when he said that there. But we could find ourselves potentially bringing back a prime, legitimately bona fide, elite level left back in Kieran Tierney, who could also be a Champions League winner by the end of that. That would be incredible stuff, and for free. But anyway, we're talking about Greg Taylor here now. We said it time and time again, mate, much maligned amongst the Celtic fans, and I'll hold my hands up. I've given him enough criticism. I think one thing we can say, though, is that over the piece, his time at the club, he's been a very, very good servant to the club. Clearly wants to be in and around first team football. I don't think that's necessarily going to be guaranteed. And my understanding is any of the sort of pushing and pulling regarding him wanting to stay about was supposedly to do with his contract, where he was wanting an increased terms. That raised a lot of eyebrows. A lot of folk didn't think it was worth that. But the manager spoke about it, mate, and he has been as clear as you will like. Whether we like it or not, he sees a lot in Greg Taylor, and he is adamant that he's a guy that he wants to keep about. Where are you at with this one, mate? Where are you at with the Taylor situation, that left back coverage?
Well, I agree that he's been a great servant to us over the years, as you say. So I absolutely agree with that. He loves the club, is the thing as well, and I don't think he actually wants to leave, if that makes sense as well. Because as you say, if he's looking for increasing terms, then he's looking for it for a reason. First of all, he doesn't particularly want to go, but he's sitting saying, "Listen up, this is what I need if I'm going to stick around." He's like, I don't want to just be falling into the shadows here. I still want to be playing active football. I still want to be out there as much as I possibly can. I've kept my word. I've kept my fitness levels up. I've kept up with the rest of the team. I've played integral parts in the team. So, he's met his end of the bargain. So I can understand wanting a little bit of something. It's like anyone trying to go for a raise in work, whether it's
Yeah.
1% or 50% or whatever. You've
I mean,
got to set down your own terms sometimes.
yeah, I mean, I think in terms of where he is, he's obviously at the prime of his career, right? This is it.
Yeah.
He's been at Celtic for many, many seasons now, and he's played the bulk of his career. His best years at Celtic. He's getting at that stage where this is essentially going to be his final big contract, if you want to call it that. He could, like we've seen many players, last a lot longer. He could,
He's
push
what,
on.
27 now, isn't
Aye,
he?
so we're talking about 3 years here. So 30 is still young, but in terms of your last decent contract, your last sort of money maker, this is pretty much it. That you're looking at that there, and then anything else you'll maybe go and it's topping up the pension pot, so to speak. But if it's about money, and this is the problem, do you see the manager wanting to keep around Kieran Tierney as being, no, not Kieran Tierney, sorry, Greg Taylor as being downsized? Now, we know Tierney's first class coming in, right? We know that. That's make no doubt about it. There's the question mark over Schlupp. He would be, again, a free agent. Versatility, he does offer versatility. He can play at centre back, he can play at left, he can slip into midfield. So he's a one-size-fits-all type of left-sided player, which does have its benefits and someone I would want to keep around. Do you think wanting to keep it, is it an easy option? Is it cheat him out? I mean, because let's be honest, it's not going to level us up. That's one thing that's undeniable. It's not going to level us up. It's not going to gear us up for looking at Champions League or anything like that. Would you be satisfied with the options that we'd have? Because we saw in the game against Kilmarnock, we moved Scalesy over to left. Right, so we played him out in the left wing, and sort of left back. We'll have Tierney. We could have Greg Taylor. We could have Sloop. Right now, on paper, I can see from a Celtic board standpoint, they're going plenty of coverage. And I said this when I was watching our friends Liam Greenlaw and Phil on the bus last night, and they were talking about this conversation. And what I said is unfortunately, I feel that ourselves as a club, for certain positions, we don't want to invest in the like for like, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the value that goes with that. Prime example is look at the right back situation. We've got Alistair Johnson, and then we've got Tony Ralston, who's just all right. He's decent, a good, solid servant, but he's just all right. You look at that centre half position, Carter Vickers, Trusty, Scales, potentially Schlupp that can move about, Narodsky, who knows what's going to happen there. But again, it's not like two left-sided centre halves. Bona fide, solid, quality, like for like. Two right-sided, like for like, is interchangeable. And I just feel that the board aren't happy to do that in certain positions. Midfield, we tend to do it. We tend to spend money on midfielders, but we don't do it elsewhere on the pitch. You could maybe even argue that with the goalkeeping situation. I know it's maybe a lighter to judge on Sinisalo, but for years we always had a goalkeeper and then just like Bain just floating about. Yeah. So are you feeling it's a cheaping out situation? Are you thinking that it's going to stutter our growth in that respect, in that sort of position?
It's difficult, although we're not adding to the team, technically speaking. We're also definitely not taking anything away from it, keeping around Greg Taylor and then getting Tierney in as well. So we're going to be increasing our chances with Tierney coming in. We know that, and our opportunities are going to increase with that because he is a top class player. Schlupp being able to move about, yes, is a good advantage, but I've not been blown away with him. I think everyone really jumped on his bandwagon because he scored one very good goal, but it was just a bit kind of there's a clear open space, I'm just going to smack it, and that was kind of it for me. I would totally agree in that we tend to sort of do the benefit for not the benefit for money. We reap the benefits of having a higher paid one and a lower paid one, and kind of
Yeah.
lowering the grade on one to the other, because like you say with Alistair Johnston and Ralston's only okay, but Alistair Johnston's very, very good. But it means in those games where you do kind of run away with it a little bit early as well, you can rest your good guy. So I
Mhm.
don't disagree with that really when it comes to the board selecting those kind of people.
I
Yeah,
mean, see, when it's sort of scratching around my head there. In terms of historically, we look back on it, with the money we've got, the resources that we've got, the position that we find ourselves in, and certainly with
yeah,
Champions League football, I do think that we should be striving to do our best to at least have more depth and quality, right? So I'm all for Tierney as an instant upgrade. There's always the question marks: is he going to do every single game? I think he's a player that needs to be managed and protected. You know, if we get
mm,
potential, there's going to be the plastic pitches that are going to be about. Obviously, there's still be the Kamara we're cutting about. We've got the danger of Livingston bring themselves back and things like that, right? So I think that he's a guy that you play in certain games, and then there's certain ones that you take him out, and that's where you need your alternative options. I says, Schlupp,
mhm,
I'm happy to have him around. Taylor, again, I'm with Lanky on this one. A lot of people don't like him. I give him criticism when it's merited. As I says, we always come on here and we'll look at games and we judge someone's performance based on what they've done in that game. Yes,
mhm,
sometimes there's a recurring theme and they maybe get caught out here and there, but that, no footballer is entirely perfect. I'm not against having Taylor about. I think that if he is willing to stick about and the terms are right, then yes, certainly a guy that knows the club and knows the expectancy, that Scottish quote, as much as I don't like having guys in there for that, ticks
yep,
many boxes, but I would still like to see us bring someone else in. Now, with the sort of transformation, if you want to call it that Arsenal have been playing with Kieran Tierney, essentially like a winger, that lends itself to multiple options and making him more versatile than just bring back Kieran Tierney as a quality left back. As I
yeah,
said before, options to play three at the back, options to use him as a winger.
yep.
Again, of course, I would still want us to strengthen in there as well. But I think we really need to look at it. If it's in increased terms, as I say, he's the last contract, so he's wanting a decent contract. We've then got to say, what's that going to be? I don't know what he's on right now. I mean, what do you think he's probably making wage-wise at the moment?
Do you know what? I probably don't even think it's about the wage. I think it's actually about the term
Mm-hmm.
more than anything. I think he's turned around and said, "Yeah, I want 3, 4 years," and they've went, "Well, hold on a wee second. No, we'll maybe keep you for 2, because if they're going in this trajectory as well of again getting into the Champions League and cracking forward with that too, then they're not thinking about he's sticking around for 3, 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
They probably want to only keep him for about 2, and then that way the Champions League chances they can, and more money coming in, they can buy a left back who's a bit more pricey and a bit more seasoned as well. Not
Yeah.
seasoned, but yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing some of the comments coming in here, and a lot of people are very positive about keeping around Taylor. Again, that's the thing. The understanding is, I've heard figures about 25 grand a week getting bandied about, which in the grand scale of football, and again in terms of where we are, that's nothing. That shouldn't be
It's not
getting
a lot, no.
that
No.
it's not a lot. It shouldn't be getting looked at. I suppose the other alternative question be is could you get someone on that kind of wage that's maybe
Mm,
a level up? Now again, it just shows you if you do your scouting right, there is guys out there. We look at Alistair Johnson, for example. He was a relative unknown coming
mhm,
into Celtic there, and I wouldn't imagine that he's on much more than that 25 grand that we're talking about there. I could be
yeah,
completely wrong there, but that's the thing. We've got to be looking at it, and I do understand why people are maybe a bit negative around that and sort of saying we need to level up. We do. We need to level up, but the reality is on top of the squad that we've got now, I'd probably say Celtic need at least another 5 players minimum to add
mm,
to it all across the pitch, whilst getting rid of some deadwood. And then even if you get rid of some of that deadwood, you need to bring in so your 5 players just based on adding to what we have right now. Once you let people go, once folk move on, it could again turn out about 7, 8. And that's
yeah,
another question for Celtic to do. Will they do it? Will they get on board with it? But the manager, and people are saying here, it's about, Lanky's saying it's about knowing what it means to play for the club, having that winning mentality, letting other players settle in and showing them the way. And I think that's a big thing that the manager's put on it. He's turned around and is looking at it where we're saying Tierney's going to level us up. Why? Because he's a better player. But he's turned around and says, well, he's a completely different player for Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor offers us a different option. Again, horses for courses. You play certain players in certain matches because they're better suited. That's the way he's looking at it. But he has played into that like he's just said there, about what he brings off the field around about. Is that maybe a bit sentimental for the manager, or do you buy into that culture
As
thing?
in trying to keep him around.
Yes.
I understand why he's trying to keep him around. He'll have a plan in his head as well, as we all know. Brendan always does. He'll have a plan for next season, and if Greg Taylor's not part of that plan when it happens, then it's going to knock him for six as well, and he's going to then struggle to catch back up again. So do we want to see the start of the season falling away because Greg Taylor's all of a sudden left when he was an integral part of Brendan Rodgers' plan? So I understand why he is trying to keep him about, because he knows him. He knows that predictability of him. He's like, right, well, he can move there and he can do this. That's what you need. You need that consistency from time to time. And if we're already getting so many different players in this season as well, I understand why he's wanting to try and keep someone like him on who can keep other players grounded, and he knows what he's going to get from him every single game.
Well, just to touch on, again, looking at options, of course, as he says, this is one that's going to play out. I think with the way it sounds as if it's going, we could probably expect to see Greg Taylor re-sign in some capacity in the season. And I'm all there for that. I'm happy with that.
Me too.
As long as Celtic are also looking at an additional option, because I think that's the one thing that we do need is we need the depth. We need the squad depth there, because I'm not saying it's going to happen, but God forbid Tierney were to get injured. At least you just with potentially Greg Taylor. Yeah, we know we've got Schlupp there that might stay around and you can move it around, but Celtic need to have those options. And I don't think at youth level or anything we've really got somebody that you can hang your hat on. That brings me around to Prentice now. Again, mixed reactions and thoughts on him and the comments here. Some people saying that apparently Rangers are interested in him. That's part of the reason why he's got himself on that PFA Team of the Year. I'll be honest with you, I think personally looking at that young guy, I think there's something there. And I think it comes back to guys that we look at previously, that the likes of Bhoys or Hickey, who have played in the league for other teams, and we've kind of turned our nose up at them and have went on and done quite well. Is he a guy that you would entertain bringing in? Again, I know he's not going to level us up. He's not going to level us up for European, but in terms of domestic and potential that's tangible, something that you've eyes on it and you see it and you know what you're getting there. Is it something that would you entertain the thought of bringing him into Celtic?
I've seen very little of his performances. I'll be totally honest about it. You watch way more football than me. You watch every single game that's going. So I've seen very little of his performances, but from what I have seen, he's been strong enough that he would be in contention at least anyway. It's worth a look. Let's be honest, almost any player is worth a look at one point, I think that if Rangers were that involved and that interested, that it might even put off our scouts in the first place, I suppose it depends on how he falls himself. I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but it depends what side he kind of falls and leans towards anyway.
Yeah.
Because we both know it makes a big difference to your personal life and everything as well. If you defect to another side, it can cause rifts within families and communities and everything. So, it shouldn't, but that's just the way that this in the world that we live in. But no, I'd be interested to have a look at him and now that you have mentioned it, I'm going to go away and have a wee look at him myself anyway.
It's interesting is how your mind can sort of desert you at times. Also, referring to him as being particularly young, he's round about ages with Taylor there, I suppose. I suppose you might be thinking he was being newer or younger because you don't really see too much of him. I think he's sort of been through the sort of ranks there, where he's worked his way into being in the Hearts team, starting off Thistle and then via Livingston. But again, in terms of a guy who's maybe earned his stripes, not say the head of the light, not been a breakthrough superstar, but someone that's proven to be quite solid, and certainly in a Hearts team that have been languishing and up and down, he's been a bright spark in there again. You can take that at face value and say, well, it's like been it's been like being the best footballer when you're 18, you're playing on a 14-year-old's team, I get it, but that's the sort of thing, you're playing alongside Wayne's and you're a lot older and it makes you look better.
Right.
But nah, I think just as an option, it's somebody that not too bad. Because we need depth, and again, I hate it, but we're always going to have to use this. Who have we got for the Scottish quota? And I would rather have guys like that are in around the league. I've also heard the name Murray for Dundee. Again, I'm not too sure about that one. People have been maybe saying that as a suggestion. I'm not sold on that. But I would rather have guys that are functional that you're more than likely to use, whether that's for cup games or whether that's for lesser league games, than just having guys that literally are just there to be a number, quite literally just a number. Guys like Welsh that will just get brought out of cold storage if you're really, really desperate, or Bain who's
Steal a
just there
wage.
to be Bain and play the music in the dressing room. So I'd be happy with that. But no, I think it's definitely something that we need to keep an eye on. If the manager wants him about, then I think the fans have got to, within reason, look at that and trust his judgment on it.
Yeah.
Do I think that bringing in Tierney and keep retaining Taylor would be just settling down? I don't think he's that stupid. I really don't. I think he would want to push on and look for something more. But again, I trust the manager's judgment on it. He sees something in it. Yes, we'll always criticise his fans, but the manager's judgment has been relatively solid in terms of the people he's brought in. And then again, look at what happened against Kilmarnock there. Brought in, reinstated into the team. And I personally thought that it was easily one of his best games all season in his appearances. And again, I know, caveat it, at home against Kilmarnock, right? I get all of that. Yeah. But he came in and he stepped up. And that for me, that's decent enough, mate.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it? It speaks volumes.
It's about application and attitude, and that's it there. But from the PFA Team of the Year, which is a wash, we want to talk about our Player of the Year nominations now. Look, it's going to be Maeda, right? Isn't it? It's going to be Maeda, but in case you've no cast your vote, get yourself on the Celtic website. Your options are Casper Schmeichel, CCV, Alistair Johnson, Cal McGregor, Nicholas Kuhn, Rio Hatate, and Maeda. It's a foregone conclusion, isn't it, mate?
I would think so, yes. Now, as I said this one of the last times we were out, I said, well, if you took Maeda out of the equation, who would you go for? And I actually said Alistair Johnson would be mine. So, I would I would cast a wee vote for him, but Maeda's there, so there's no two ways about that he's likely going to walk away with it.
Aye, as I say, that's the thing. I just want to read through some of the comments there. There's a couple of names there from, of course, saying Mitchell Frame and Matt Anderson, both Scottish and left. But I get that, as I say, and there's options there. And in terms of Big Rab saying, do your research, mate. I don't know if you watch enough. Our research is fantastic. Sometimes things slip by. You get facts, figures, states, ages, appearances, the whole shooting match. But sometimes it's just there. As I say, when you a wee bit less about guys than they come in the past, and you can be like, we're all human after all. Some people do pass things up, so it's not get yourselves tied up in that there. But in terms of the young player, this is the interesting one. I know it'd be disrespectful. The way I described it, I was talking about it was like being asked if you wanted to be shot, stabbed, hung, or knocked over. The Young Player of the Year award, Yang, Bernardo, Engels, or Ida. That's a tough choice, is it not?
An extreme one. You can take Ida out of that straight away. Yang, do you know what? He's done okay from time to time, but again, he's kind of needed to come into games where we're already 2-0, 3-0 up, and then make the goals up. So, he's not had any performance changing goals. So for me, he's not the best of the best. Engels, I think, is actually quite a good shout. Because I've seen him develop over the season.
Strange I was going with Engels there.
Yeah, I think that he's developed well throughout the season. He's took on the role a bit more seriously. I didn't think that he did at the start. So yeah, I think that for me, he would be the Young Player of the Year, definitely.
I think looking at it, obviously there's Kaiser's, he's in the Yang Gang, he's good for that. I think if we're being honest, but we've got to look at those and we've got to say who's been getting the most appearances. And really the reality there is it's a toss-up between Yang, Engels, and Anida. Engels has been played more regularly. He's pretty much a starter. Yeah, he's been a state of flux at times, up and down, but I think he's starting to come good. He's starting to show his quality, and yeah, definitely over the piece, he's been the best performer there. Yang's a bit late to the party. It's been a small purple patch. Unfortunately, he's now injured. Bernardo again injured, so you can't really. I'm quite surprised at some of those. I thought that, aye. Looking at it, Adamida as well, he's just a guy that will get on to at some stage there. But I think for me, it's got to be Engels. I think that's probably the clear winner in that category there. If you'd seen a wee bit more of Bernardo, I think there's a lot to offer there, and he's a guy that actually looking towards the sort of run-in at the end of the season. I want to see a wee bit more off. I feel a wee bit sorry for Bernardo having brought himself back, got back to fitness, and sort of not been getting a wee chance there. But no, I think for me, it's probably going to be Engels as you're going to be your young player of the year there.
Paddy will be sitting having a heart attack.
Oh, Paddy will be absolutely freaking out. I mean, if it was you're still convinced that James Forrest is young and he's going to be the young player of the year.
He can't really be classed as a young player of the year, I don't, can he?
No, can he? No, I don't. I mean, certainly not. But in terms of that, now, of course, we've got the women's player of the year, women's goal of the year, male's goal of the year. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I make no excuses. My knowledge of the women's team is not great. So I'd be lying. I'm not going to sit here and tell you my player of the year is because I don't watch enough of the matches, unfortunately. So that's why we're not mentioning it. It's just simply because, again, as Rab says, do your research. I don't do my research because it's not my bag, unfortunately. Hold my hands up. I want to see the girls do well. Unfortunately, they're pretty much going to surrender. I think their title defence, which is disappointing. I did watch a wee bit of the game against Rangers there, and I thought it was pretty poor, to be honest. I thought both teams looked very average, and it's been a bit of a fall off for them. It's certainly Elena being the women's manager. I think there's even questions. I've seen it on social media where folk are saying it's time for her to just say thanks, but no thanks, because she did inherit a Fran Alonso team that were flying high, doing well, managed to push them over the line, but in her first full season there, it's not quite worked out. So again, for me, it's a toss of a coin who's going to be the women's player of the year. In terms of this goal of the season for Celtic, if you have any picks, because there's some crackers in there, go and watch it on the website.
I've not even looked up what they would be, but mine would have to be Carter Vickers.
Are you going with that? Are you going with that cross come shot? Aye.
Oh, it has to be. Like, oh my god, it blew the minds of us all. So I can see that as being mine. Certainly, that's my pick. So, what about you? What are you thinking?
Oh, I went for Cal McGregor against Rangers. That's what I voted for.
Oh, fair.
That's what I voted for. I don't know. I mean, it's against Rangers. That always does a lot for me. But it was an absolute rocket. I just like to be cut in and right across the eyes and near enough top corner. I thought that was definitely the one for me. That's the one that got my vote there, as I say. And my player of the year, of course, was Maeda, and I voted for Engels, simply as I say, because he's the most game time and he's shown the most promise out of the options that were there.
Yes.
On that young player of the year, one of the names is Adamida. We spoke about Adamida. I want to know what your thoughts is. There was that, how would you say it, unflattering video of him on a night out, day off, and the manager was asked about it. Now, Rodgers, I think, handled this one quite well. He obviously showed that he's got his players back. Do I believe that what he's saying in front of the cameras is how he genuinely feels about it? Probably not. I think it's a combination of not airing your dirty laundry out in public and keeping things in house and showing a sort of a bit of solidarity there, showing a bit of support for his guys. I don't think he's going to do him any favours. Now, in case you haven't seen it, it's not the end of the world. The big man was out. Some people in a taxi with him, bit of filming, bit of laughing. He was off the steamboats. Word is he was sick all over this dude's taxi and then didn't want to pay the bill, and I think they charge you as well for if you're sick in a motor and stuff like
on
that.
and all that.
And that's hit social media. The manager did say when he got asked about it that Big Eda phoned him the next day, spoke to him about it, and Rodgers took the stance off. He's a young guy, he's a day off, and fortunately in the modern society with phones, people want to film things, and then he spun it down the line. This is why players don't want to do videos, that's why they won't sign things, yada, yada, yada. I think if we are being honest, and again, this has happened time and time again, we've seen these things, and strangely I've seen, remember we saw, I think it was outside Central, it was Bruni perched up against a shop front eating a kebab steaming. And in the grand scale of things, it doesn't matter. It didn't affect him whatsoever. I just feel that in terms of this, with him being in this sort of stage where he's not exactly living up to the hype, he's struggling for a bit of confidence, struggling for a bit of form. It maybe doesn't do him any favours in terms of that. So where are you at with this kind of thing? Does it matter to you? Do you think it's going to have any effect on him?
I think it will have a slight effect, whether he admits it or not. It will have an effect with Brendan. He's saying, "Oh, the big man phoned me the next day" and everything like that. I doubt that Ida actually phoned him. I'd like to think that Brendan phoned him and woke him up for one of the world's worst hangovers and said, "The hell are you doing?" and gave him a good clout round the back of the head.
Well, he claims it. Brendan claims he doesn't. He hasn't actually seen it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I don't believe that at all. And if he hasn't, then he's not watched it on his own phone. Someone's went, "Here, look at this." It's one of those situations like, "Oh, look what this idiot's doing." But no, as you say, it will taint his view no matter what you say. You can always go, "Oh, no, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect me and everything," but it will taint his view a little bit. As you say, he's not setting the world on fire with his performances, so it doesn't help things. But do I think it will have a long-term effect? No. I think if anything, it might actually give him a bit of motivation to go, Jesus, I better make this up to the manager a wee bit here. I was a bit of an idiot, it happens. We're all young, or we all were young at one point, and we've all done daft stuff and made mistakes and stuff. So yeah, who's not been out steaming and maybe done questionable things in a taxi? It just is what it is.
Well, I don't think it's going to necessarily affect his future. Strange enough, it's happened. It's happened to better players, right? And it's about bouncing back and how you react. I think it might be a wee jag in the arm for him. In terms, just a wee sort of reminder about conduct. And this is the thing. Brendan obviously had his back, and it's good to hear. He says he's a model professional. Don't let this sort of blur your views on him, because in terms of putting in the effort, the training, the nutrition, the physical side of things, he looks after himself. It's one of the ones, and that's fine, and I'm all for it. As I say, I just think at a time when he's been given a chance against Kelly, it didn't really work out for the big man. It was a poor 60-odd minutes shown, and we'll go into a semi-final, and it's before that. Is it going to do him any favours to get that starting berth? Probably not, but then again, funnier things have happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if Brendan just doubles down and plays him.
Aye, no, I totally agree. As I say, it could be the wake up call that he kind of needs or needed and things like that. I'm sure he does. He has fans out there anyway who absolutely love him, and that he doesn't want to let them down or kids down or whoever may have seen that video. So I reckon he'll be out with a point to prove, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope that he does. I hope he comes out and smashes it. Absolutely.
Do you know what, the thing is, I thought that when I first heard about this, I was expecting something wild. I was expecting there's a video. I thought.
Do you remember Freddie Flintoff and stuff?
Aye, I thought he was going to be falling about or spewing all over his cell or something. Like, he literally just looks like he's had far too many pints. He's like, "Oh man, I'm no." Do you know what I mean? What crap. But
as I say, we've all been there, haven't we? So it is what it is.
That's and so I mean, that's the sort of thing that and this is the point. And Strange Club made it says it, and the manager says it. I think the more annoying thing about these things is that these people are with them, but decide to post this.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's probably the kind of thing that if we're all out, if we're out, me, you, Paddy, or whatever, and
Mhm.
you're absolutely steamboats, might film it and then send it to you next morning and laugh at
Aye.
you. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to stick it
Exactly.
up. We're not going to go onto here and upload onto YouTube and say,
No.
what just state Joe? So,
Aye.
maybe we will. I
And
don't know,
it's
Joe.
that's it. It will question. I try it, but they'll pull question then to who are your friends, who are you hanging out with, and that's terrible. It puts a big doubt in your own mind as well as to who you're, putting yourself out there with it. Aye, so I do feel for him in a way, and I feel for any professional that's ever put in that position. You can't let your hair down a lot of the time, and it's a shame. It's a real shame.
Well, you can't let your hair down anyway, so don't worry about
No,
that.
I certainly can't. They let us down a bit.
Well, as we say, it is what it is. I'm sure that the big man will. It's a learning experience, isn't it? That who do you trust to have around you in that? But make
You
yourself.
forget sometimes how much you're in the limelight as well, don't you? I suppose.
And that's it. And that's the thing is the Glasgow fishbowl, as they call it.
Aye.
There's always somebody that's looking for there. If it's not rival fans, if it's not a member of the public who wants to catch somebody out, it's obviously the mainstream media. And they're later going to feast on that. But I do think that the way that manager dealt with it was very, very good. And it'll be interesting to see as we go into this game tomorrow. So let's go on to that game tomorrow. As we said there, the tagline, there's no room for sinners against the Saints. And that was basically because there was a collection of sinners in that loss to them in the league. We saw the changes that came in at Kelly. How we think tomorrow? I mean, for me, looking at it, I think that, no disrespect, we'll just mention them. I go with very much the same team. I would take out Ida. I'd put Maeda back through the middle and I'd bring in Jota. That would be my team. I'd be keeping I liked what I saw with Scales.
So would you start Jota?
I would start Jota. I think that he was one of the collection of poor players that need to really up their performances. But again, and there's been various when we spoke about it, a lot of folk liked what they saw for Ida. Me personally, I just thought it was 60 odd minutes of
nothing
guff, to be honest with you. I'm not going to pull my punches or try to be fancy, but it's not a pile-on. I say just judging it with my eyes, I just thought it was highly ineffective. Really ineffective, and didn't do enough to justify getting another chance in a must-win match. That's what I mean. As I said before, I'm quite happy for Ida and any other player that the manager wants to get a right good look at or, sort of give a chance to get in time in the remaining games. Once that league's done, of course, that becomes sticky because we can de-unite it, we can win the league there. You're no then going to go and mix things up against Rangers, right? So it realistically should be 3 games in the league to the end of the, that you can mix it about. I'm happy for that. When it's must-win games, from the off, I think you've got to play your best. And I think for me, Maeda back through the middle, I didn't think Ida had done enough to Mary's place, and then that just comes to the question, say, well, who do you bring back in? I didn't think that when Kuhn came on, likewise, I didn't think that he had a wee bright 2-3 minutes, and then he just reverted back to normal. Jota, again, wasn't fantastic, but he was better than Kuhn. I would definitely keep Forrest. I like what I saw there. You've got that versatility, but he can play both sides, as can Jota. So I would go with what we saw against Kelly minus Ida, bringing in Jota again. Yourself, mate, any thoughts on it?
I would actually almost 100% agree with you. Forrest is a must for me in any case, almost, as you know. But no, I thought he played brilliant. He showed great athleticism and really, really good pace as well. And the way he turned on the ball and was able to control it, phenomenal. So I want to see more of him play anyway.
Yeah.
But take Ida out. As you say, it was 60 minutes of nothing really. I couldn't even tell. If you were listening to commentary, you wouldn't know he was on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't watching it, you wouldn't know he was even on the pitch because he didn't. I don't think he even touched the ball once. He just made no difference to that game whatsoever.
No, I mean, I think, and there's a Parkhead Boys asking, we spoke about Greg Taylor. Yeah, we did at the start of the show, so hopefully you might want to catch up with that there. We says happy to have him around as an option if that contract's going to be there. But again, as I says, I saw a lot of people throwing a bit of shade on his performance and the whole sort of thing where he brought on his wee on the pitch. I thought it was actually quite a nice touch, not for everybody, but I felt that Greg Taylor offered a good option in that game. And looking at the standard that we're going up against St. Johnstone, very similar to what we're getting against Kilmarnock. So again, I've no issues with that happening. I actually think that it will maybe make guys like Schlupp up their game again. It's all about that. He's come in out the cold, very much out of cold storage, because once we started going through that contract situation, he was getting used sparingly. And it was almost as if the manager I don't know if they didn't want to put him in the firing line or he wasn't the headspace. I know that there was a thing with the vegan and all that kind of stuff, but he wasn't really featuring. So he came in and I thought he had a fantastic performance. We spoke about it. You say Hatate was man of the match. I thought there was an argument for Greg Taylor to be in that equation. A lot of people scoffed at that.
A lot did.
Aye. But I thought very good. But I liked what I saw for him, and I liked what I saw from Scales. I thought that both the additions of them into that squad really helped with the urgency. Obviously, get the overload in the midfield from Taylor, but Scales is just far more comfortable carrying the ball forward.
He loves it. He's absolutely fine just running up the middle or running up the wing, absolutely. So, no, I totally agree with you. Scales has to be in for me, yeah.
And I think, as we say, it really just then begs the question, if we're going to take out Ida, you're moving Maeda in the centre, which is where it needs to be. Forrest, I thought, was good value for money. I really liked what I saw. He looked sharp. He looked eager to play. Contributed well. Good link up with Alistair Johnson. So that just makes you the question, say, do you bring in Kuhn or do you bring in Jota? If you were to pick, because that's realistically one of the two that you're going to bring in. Do you bring in Kuhn, move Forrest over to the left, or do you keep Forrest out on the right and bring in Jota, mate?
I'd keep Forrest on the right and bring in Jota. Because I think Jota can also turn it very well, and his crosses are phenomenal too. So if you can get him on the ball, and he's not marked up by 2 or 3, which he usually is, then he's great at turning it and getting it into the box for anyone who will be there, who we know will be Maeda anyway.
And in terms of, obviously we know like being a good solid return to form. It was good to see Rio Hatate has come back on a right good game. Fantastic against Kilmarnock. He was quoted in the sort of press. He was showing that he wants to, was talking very, very positive. I think that, again, we can't avoid this. I think he's probably the most likely candidate if there's going to be a casualty from the team in terms of sales. But he seems in a good headspace, and certainly from what he was quoted in the media, he seems that he really wants to push on, show his best again, and essentially go out. If he's going to go out on a high, he wants to crush the remainder of this season. It starts with tomorrow. It's another great opportunity for him there.
Yeah.
But like Sir Bernardo and McCowan, again, we're playing against St. Johnstone. I always say put your best foot forward. You want to play your best players, but Bernardo in particular, he's a guy that I would like to see. And I think perhaps if I was going to maybe change one of the midfield 3, I would potentially maybe take out Engels, not because he's done anything wrong. I just think that with the way that Rio's got a bit between his teeth and the way that McGregor's going to be, if there's going to be one potential switch there in that midfield, that and maybe Bernardo.
Well, I don't think that Engels and Bernardo particularly work together well, not in a bad way, not like they dislike each other or anything like that. I think they just have very similar playing styles. So I think they do kind of butt heads when it comes to that a little bit. I would like to see Bernardo play a little bit, but I also think don't change the recipe if it's still good, Hatate having this bit between his teeth is fantastic. I'm so glad, so happy to see it. And it will finally shut Paddy up as well. So I know I'd be very happy for him to come out and put in a similar performance again. I mean, my God, he was on it. He was on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's not too much that was wrong with the formula against Kelly. No. Some comments coming in. Big Rab saying against if you're going to pick Jota or Kuhn, why you rotating him? What did they do in a space? But I don't think it's what did they in a space. What did Ida do to retain a place? Yeah. So again, it's kind of like you want shot or stabbed, because admittedly neither of them have been particularly great, but he does an empty shot. So do you want to do that again? I
don't think Ida creates the opportunities as well.
Do you want to do another 60 minutes at Ida and hope that he does something, or do you flip that and give, similar to Ida, your Kuhn or your Jota, who have not been setting the hair alight either, do you give him a chance? And I would rather do that than in doing that. But I think as well, I think that I'll be strange. I definitely want to see Paul Bernardo. I think he's a player that offers so much. There's so much potential there. And I just thought that when he came back, he would be one of the guys that would be trying to bleed back into the team with some minutes here. He's definitely a guy that I think will have a lot to offer in the running. It's a great option to have. We've got to go over this hurdle here, then Dundee United, but then obviously we've got to look at Rangers. That's the next massive match. Yeah, look, could we go there and be champions? We're not going to get a guard of honour. Let's just forget that, right?
Yeah.
But that's as big a game as any.
If we can gear them up for that, then that's perfect.
There's no dead rubber. This is a massive game coming up. What is 2 games before it, but against Rangers, and I just want guys like Bernardo to be brought back into the squad for that. I want to see them offering what they can do. And then obviously as well, we say you want to try and get guys like Biotati, keep that form on going. Because when we look at that, aside from, I think Dundee, and it's not to belittle that game, I just think Dundee United should take care of itself. That's the one that you can clinch it, right? Some folk would love to do it against Rangers. But again, if you ask me right now at this moment in time, am I getting into that game with any level of confidence? I'm not.
No.
I think we'll go there. We're going to win the league, right? We're going to win the league, and I would have his absolute full confidence to go on and win the treble. Against Rangers, I think that am I sitting here with my usual confidence? No, I'm not.
No.
So I want these next 2 games to be an opportunity to get guys back on form.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Take the bull by the horns. We've got to do it and make it work this time. Can't lose 3 times in the league. It's just what good boy says.
We can't. We can't do it. But no, as I say, I think looking at the game the more, I'd like to think that it's going to take care of itself. As I say, we've spoken to the formation, we've seen where we think it's going to go. Are you confident that it's going to be similar that we got against Kilmarnock? You thinking confident on that sort of 3+ goals, comfortable run out?
I would probably go with 3+ goals, but I would do it in a different style. I would say it's probably going to be, I think it's actually just going to be like a very simple 2-1, 3-1 situation. I really do. I know. Listen, I'd love them to come out and scalp them 5-1 like we did with Kilmarnock. That would be fantastic. But St Johnstone have not been that terrible of a team this season in any case. I know they're not doing brilliant at the minute. But they've got some good players who can show up on the day. So, yeah, we just need to wait and see. But for me, I'd say I'll go my safe bet, which is always made in 3-1 as well.
I like it. Well, so it's a big match for the side tomorrow. It puts you in touching distance, and I think based off, no disrespect to St Johnstone, I just think it's different gravy when it's a semi-final. I know they've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, but equally as well, with the position that we're in, and touching distance of a treble, it would be absolutely unforgivable to not get ourselves through there. We know who it's going to be. It's going to be Aberdeen. As I said, I sat and watched them. Aberdeen are a team that are falling away. They could find themselves as far down as 5th in this league at this moment in time. They're in a right scrap. And if there's any concerns about potentially playing Aberdeen, it's a bad day for us. I think it'd be very, very comfortable to go on and get a treble there, which then would ask the question. We're sitting talking about the futures of certain players. The manager's contract situation, I think that's the biggest asset. That's the biggest asset that Celtic have at this moment in time. And as well as wanting to tie down the likes of Maeda, the manager wants to retain Greg Taylor, and we need to sign new players. Should Celtic be looking at trying to get Rodgers come the end of the season? If it's give him an extension in the showers if we've won the treble, let's do a Neil Lennon that folk would maybe get fully on board with. Do you think? I listen. The manager says he's going to be here for his terms. He's minimum 3 years. He said that. Do I think Brendan's here for 10 in a row and all that stuff? No, I don't. I really don't. I think that beyond his last year, we might get 1, maybe 2 years. But is it more about keeping the manager around to help with the squad, but also, as I say, protecting an asset that when he does eventually move on, that like the last time, you could get a big fee for him as well? Do we need to be trying to tie out the manager as well, mate?
I think that should be the last thing on anyone's mind, is about getting a big fee for him at some point, because when it comes to managers, it's not about that. When it comes to players, yes, I understand it. But when it comes to managers, if it's not the right manager, it doesn't work. And it really is as simple as that. I mean, Brendan went off and was with Leicester, and it was terrible. So he obviously wasn't the right manager for that team, whether he put players in or not. But I think that he will sign an extension. I think he'll probably be another 2 years after. That's what I would like to hope anyway. That's what I'd like to see out of him, put it that way. And then at that point, do we start going, oh, do you know what? You've done us well. You kind of redeemed yourself a little bit from being a snake. So we'll let you away with it, right? On you go, kind of thing. So
Aye.
yeah, that's what I would hope anyway.
No, well, that's it. Plenty of business to get done, starting with the Summers. We say it's got a big, massive game tomorrow. I'm confident. So there's no disrespect to St. Johnstone. I just think that the stakes are so high, and being in touching distance after that performance against Kelly, I can just see more of the same. I'm going to go for 3-0. I know that's a wee bit boring. I'm going to go for 3-0. And I actually think that Rio's going to pick up where he left off. I'm going to put him down for a goal as well. 100%. A goal down for him, and of course, Maeda there as well. We're going to get another random goal. I don't know. Who knows? But I think Maeda and Rio
Do you think
Hataya.
Alistair Johnson or something put one in?
William Skills header or something. Give me that. Do you know what I mean? Give us that. Maybe we'll score for a set piece. That would be good, wouldn't it?
Oh, don't tempt fate now, jeez.
I might get down the bookies and say, what's the odds on Celtic to score for a set piece? They just laugh at me.
1,000,000 to 1.
Laugh at me and give like 40 to 1 or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
But there we go. So listen, Easter round the corner.
Yes.
Big game tomorrow. We know what the opponents are going to be. Hopefully the sun's shining, and looking forward to it. Of course, we'll be back. We'll cover that regardless of the result. But I say regardless. I hate being overconfident.
We'll be back
when Celtic win. We'll be back and we'll talk about it, right? So hopefully you enjoy the game. If you're going to the game, enjoy yourselves. Keep safe and all that kind of stuff. And enjoy your Easter Sunday when that comes round as well. It's we know what lies ahead for us. It's up to us to do our bit, and I'm sure we will. So before you go, hit the subscribe button, hit the wee bell notification, caution on, support the channel, and thanks for viewing. Take care of yourselves, and as always, hail, hail. We'll see you later on. Bye bye.